How you doing? How about right here? Okay, we don't have that. Okay. Now you know it's just rolling like it's hot. Me too. But catch them, I just trying to snap the catch trying to get them.
The harvest was delayed because of the heavy rains, but now that we've experienced some dry weather, farmers are getting down to business. State ag experts are still predicting a record 221 million bushel harvest. Some crops have been washed away by floodwaters, but other fields have greatly benefited by all the moisture, such is the case on the Harold Young farm. This land has been in his family since 1920. He feels it's one of his best crops.
The grain's much better than it was last year. It was dry last year, if you recall. It was shriveled quite a bit. They've been fertilizing all the ground around here, and it's doing much better than it's been doing in the upground part. We're getting better stand of wheat, and it's looking more like what it was down here in the bottom last year. Now last year down there we got about 35, 40 bushels, but we're getting close to that up in here now.
Even though this year's crop looks like it's going to be a good one for Young, he says he's certainly not pleased with the price of wheat. In the Sooner State, wheat prices range from about $3.30 a bushel to $3.60 a bushel. With these prices, wheat farming just isn't profitable, even if you have a great crop. Ben McGee, Action 4, Oklahoma County.
We've been fighting the weather for the last 2 months. We've had a lot of rain, and everyone is running a little bit behind time. That's the only problems I can see.
OIC is still helping people become a viable part of society, but it hasn't been easy since the program became a victim of budget cuts. The Oklahoma County branch is trying to raise $250,000 in order to teach students for at least another year. This self-help program has trained 4,500 people in Oklahoma since starting here in 1966. OIC's motto has been to help the economically disadvantaged achieve goals that used to seem unreachable. Despite hard times, OIC says it's here to stay.
OIC is a quality program, a productive quality program, a precision program, the most precision and the most productive and quality training program to help people who need skills to get on jobs in this country today. And yes, we are projecting the best, the best, the best. We're not going to be second best in America. OIC, the best.
Reverend Sullivan says OIC programs around the country will win the money battle because his people refuse to lose. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Northeast Oklahoma City.
The Oklahoma National Stockyards. It's called the largest cattle market in the world. Elmo Bella, or Mo as his friends call him, could be considered a fixture here. Mo is the auction clerk. In August, he will be starting his 40th year at the Stockyards. He's seen a lot of changes.
Well, to look back and see how many friends I've made, how many commission companies has come and went. and how the company has changed and the hardships they have really went through and the progress. Biggest thing is the progress they've made.
You've been here almost 40 years. What was it like the first day you started? Do you remember?
I remember real well the way the cattle came in. And they came in such numbers you'd think we'd run out of them, but they didn't. I was making about, I'd say, $25 a week back in '43.
You think you were in the money then?
I thought it was at the time.
Mo still enjoys his work. What he really likes is the casual atmosphere and, of course, all the friendly people.
It was a seething press conference. Members of the Oklahoma Women's Political Caucus lashed out at certain senators for voting against the ERA. One in particular, Senator Roy Boatner of Calera, was credited with being the one vote that would have made the difference. Wanda Jo Peltier, head of the Oklahoma Women's Political Caucus, said Boatner and others would be singled out for defeat in November. She said leaflets will be distributed saying their vote against women was a vote against the people.
And we have described these legislators' anti-people votes in flyers, and we're taking these flyers back out to their district, 3,000 flyers at a time, and passing them out to the people to let them know how they're being represented up here in the state legislature. We're not in favor of changing the ERA. We're in favor of changing the composition of the House and Senate.
The women said they are angry, and they find it very therapeutic to go door to door campaigning against those who denied them what they called first-class citizenship. As for those people who tried to help them, like Senator Marvin York, the women said they will do everything they can to help them get reelected. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the state capitol.
It was difficult for fire rescue workers to know just how much good they were doing for the young victim. The infant is only 10 months old, and so it was hard to find her vital life signs. The infant and her sister were playing in the backyard of their babysitter's home when she apparently fell into a small wading pool. There are only a few inches of water in the pool, but rescue workers are afraid she was in the water for about 4 minutes.
That's not a very long time, and she's a young child, so maybe she'll have a chance. I don't know. I hope so. We did everything we could do for her, and just hope for the best.
Rescuers worked feverishly to save the child, but she never regained consciousness at the accident scene. The fire department and emergency crews on the scene knew that at best, the fight for the baby's life would be difficult. And they were racing against the clock when they transported her to Mercy Hospital. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, in northwest Oklahoma City.
So there's no way of knowing, exactly what time it showed up. We had a description of the car. A couple of officers were checking the parking lots here, and they found the car in the north parking lot of Penn Square. And what we're doing is we're asking that any shoppers and employees that might have been out here any time between 11 o'clock this morning and 5 o'clock this afternoon, if they saw anyone around this car, saw anything unusual out here, we'd ask them to contact the Oklahoma City Police Department Homicide Unit.
The fact is that from the very beginning of the walkout, there were some problems in the system, and those problems had to be solved. There were some issues that had to be addressed that were never addressed by the FAA in negotiations throughout the walkout, and the fact that controllers have been fired and the fact that PATCO has gone bankrupt does not solve those problems.
Penn Square Bank is proud to be participating actively in the oil and gas business financing. That we consider it to be the lifeblood of Oklahoma, and that we're proud of our customers, and some of them are having problems now, just like farmers and other people are having some problems now. And this is a federally insured national bank, and we are, contrary to what anything you might heard from rumors, we are open for business tomorrow as usual, and we'll be here Tuesday morning in business.
Police have found the answers to several questions now. They know their suspect is a white male in his late 30s, about 5'10", with a muscular build. He has a ruddy complexion and curly sandy blonde hair. Police gathered the description from witnesses who saw the man leaving the victim's home and getting out of the victim's car at a nearby shopping center. Police also learned that the man apparently acted alone and that his motive was robbery. An inventory shows several pieces of jewelry and a mink coat are missing.
Quite simply, we're going to proceed with the investigation, and now we're able to direct more of that towards the suspect. We have a very good idea of what he looks like now. We know what property is missing. Perhaps that will lead us back to the suspect as well.
There are still several holes in the scenario of what happened last Thursday. The Orbach's home was for sale, and police believe the man may have gotten into the house as a prospective buyer. They are looking for similar crimes around the country. In the meantime, memorial services were held for the couple today, and while police are a little closer to an answer for the question who, friends and relatives are no closer to an answer for the question why. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
President, this McGee Creek project, and I can assure you I will continue to work with the governor.
Ms. Dethridge, if you would yield, none of this is for purchase of land. It is anticipated that it will be constructed.
It's bad if you overeat.
Buying food? I don't know. I really never thought about that, to tell you the truth.
The Workers' Compensation Court.
Yes. Try to answer any questions that any of the members might have. And this is basically
so the
allowing
$10 million
them to use the
does not relate to the estimated cost of the facilities, but is the estimated surplus.
Exactly. They submitted to us a list of construction that they wanted us to appropriate money for that would.
Large depositors with the insolvent Penn Square Bank still don't know when they may recover deposits not insured by FDIC. The Wall Street Journal reports that their uncertainty is rippling to other banks, where large depositors are also concerned about their uninsured funds. There are some reports that some of the people are splitting their deposits to other banks. But two Oklahoma City banks say the Penn Square closing has prompted a lot of questions, but no noticeable switching of funds.
We have received a lot of calls concerning the FDIC insurance and the structure of our bank. We are seeing the exact opposite, and we are not seeing the swift switching of funds.
We have not seen a trend of money going out as a result of that. A lot more questions regarding insurances occurred over the last week and how to maximize that insurance and the coverage of that insurance. But we have not been able to trace funds flowing out as a result of that.
The two banks say their deposits and new accounts have risen sharply in the last few weeks. They say they have had no large withdrawals. They also say their customers seem assured that the Penn Square problem was not a typical one. They have confidence in the stability of Oklahoma banks. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
I had no advanced knowledge whatsoever. Mr. Rader did not tell me. None of his staff told me. There was no indication to me. I was totally surprised. I was speaking at an Edmond Chamber of Commerce when one of my staff members was called outside to be informed by another staff meeting of his resignation. I had no advanced knowledge whatsoever. I have had no discussion with Mr. Rader in the past few months whatsoever about ever him retiring or retiring now. And anyone who inserts into the conversation that Mr. Rader and I or anybody else indicates that I knew about it in advance is not informed.
On July 5th, the Comptroller of the Currency declared Penn Square Bank insolvent. The FDIC moved in supplies that very evening as they prepared to run the bank. The next day, long lines of depositors were at Penn Square early to withdraw their money. It's been a most disturbing situation, and leaders in the Oklahoma business and political world have had varied reactions.
Yes, I was surprised that it was closed, quite surprised. I really felt that the larger banking institutions would probably get together some way and be able to take over the bank. And at the end, we were part of a group of people who were trying to find new capital for the bank.
I don't think overall in the economy of the state, from my vantage point, that it will have a long-lasting effect, the closing of the bank. When you get down to it, if there's an incentive for investment, it'll come back in there. If there's a chance of making a dollar, people will invest in it. So people need to relax. The whole policy is relax. Don't run. Don't pressure.
What's going on in the oil business is almost business as usual. I don't know why anybody thought that we'd taken the risk out of the business by some magic formula, and all Penn Square illustrates is the risk is not out of the business. There was no guarantee anywhere that a bank would never fail. We've had that happen before, and the whole economy didn't go down the chute in Oklahoma or anyplace else. So I think we'll make it over this one, too.
Despite the reassuring words, the Oklahomans who waited in the long lines probably still have questions about the future. Bill Ross, Action 4.
Just looking at the water, it doesn't seem that bad, but Lake Overholser is one lake that's not doing too well. The problem is silt that's been building up since the lake started back in 1919. It's causing a heavy growth of aquatic weeds, and that's had a bad effect on boating at the lake. But tonight, a citizens group got together to talk about solving those problems. This is part of the National Clean Lakes program started back in 1972. The group will decide what should be done, whether it be dredging out the silt or chemical treatment to get rid of the weeds. Then they'll go to the federal government for financial assistance. The coordinator for the group says all of Oklahoma City should be concerned about the lake.
It's a municipal water supply. That's one important area, and I know that the study is for recreation, but I just believe that people should be concerned with the water that is available. It's getting to a point where it's a non-renewable resource.
Restoring the lake is the whole point of the project, so that the quality of water will reflect the quality of life. Ted Brown, Action 4 at Lake Overholser.
Evidently, from the evidence on the scene, it was an accidental death, but we're just going to have to wait till the ME completes his report.
I would like to know why the supervisor didn't call and find out on the radio that the boys was okay at 4 o'clock. I think the city made a mistake by not coming out here checking on them. I think they should have had a supervisor and licensed electrician out here doing the work instead of letting just everybody in town do the work. Everybody works for the city. And that's my feelings about it.
Weren't the two people here qualified?
There will be checks to see if there's any outstanding warrants for the person's arrest. There will be a background check done on the weapon itself to check with the National NCIC to see if the weapon had been stolen. And then the Federal Bureau of Investigation will be notified, and they will review the case, and depending upon their recommendations to the U.S. Attorney, it may involve some charges.
that together?
The State Banking Department has begun reviewing an application for a new state bank. 11 investors, led by Tulsa State Senator Roger Randall, want the department to charter the Phoenix State Bank. The application filed last Friday says the new bank is needed to fill the void left by the failure of Penn Square Bank. The State Banking Commissioner says his department will be checking the motives and background of the men who want the charter. The big issue is the necessity of the new bank.
A new bank might conceivably be needed in the area. In most cases, this is going to be a competing bank, and the question of need becomes one of what is your interpretation of need. It's not mandatorily needed, but it may be conveniently needed.
And Commissioner Empey says he expects other banks in the area of Penn Square Bank to oppose the application.
How you doing today?
The reason is simple. Those banks don't want to lose the area's customers to a new bank. Officers of the banks already in existence say they're doing a good job taking up the slack left by Penn Square Bank's failure. The president of Nichols Hills Bank says that bank's board of directors will examine the application and then decide whether to join a formal opposition. Homer Paul says the closing of Penn Square Bank doesn't necessarily mean there's a need for a new bank at this time.
At this point, if you assume that there was a need before, because all of these people banked there and had these, millions of dollars in deposits there, you could assume that yes, there is a need because people were using it. But that is not the situation now. There is no more Penn Square Bank, and these customers and their deposits are moving out into other financial institutions in the surrounding area, including this one.
If there is opposition, the decision as to whether the fall of the Penn Square Bank gives rise to the Phoenix State Bank is a long way off. Commissioner Empey says the State Banking Board should have its decision in September, but the loser can appeal to the court system. And according to Empey, it should take the Supreme Court at least 3 or 4 years to reach its decision. Bill Ross, Action 4, at the site of the former Penn Square Bank.
For primary POI, whichever. We'll do dimensions.